Hello, everybody. This is Chris Carr, your host, and we're going to be talking about the CREATE model presented by Creative Muse. Today, we have a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself, my friend?
Yeah. My name is Grant Swift Glidden. I go by Grant Swift as the stage name. I am a musician and artist, one-man band, and songwriter here in Brooklyn, New York.
Awesome. For today's discussion, we're going to be talking about connectivity and how in your creative process, you find either connection to yourself, art, the world, the universe, how in the expression of art, you feel connected to other people or not, or what have you. So first off, when did you realize you wanted to make stuff? Like when did you get that awareness, or like when did you start expressing your connection to art internally?
I think it was probably, I think I was probably, I would guess I was probably somewhere around like 11, 12. I was singing in a church choir that I grew up singing in. And I started to kind of become aware that, oh, people wrote this music. I think that I sing. And I asked my parents if they could give me guitar lessons on my mom's old Yamaha guitar, and that just seemed like the instrument most suitable for songwriting and for kind of coming up with your own stuff. And so, yeah, I started experimenting with that, and I think I was probably around 12, 13, and then met other friends who at the time were also learning instruments, and kind of we mutually supported each other in our songwriting efforts. But I think it was probably sometime around then that I realized, oh, this is something I can actually do. I might have some talent doing this. And then yeah, people around me reinforced that belief. I remember having a conversation with my dad around that time when I was thinking about my future, and I said, I really enjoy performing music and I enjoy singing it, but I kind of think I want to be someone who also makes it, creates it. And my dad was very supportive of that idea. So
Now, at that point, when you kind of felt that extra element of like wanting to make music for yourself, or like kind of write and sing material you created, you were already singing. So like at what point did you start, like at the beginning of like being involved in some creative expression or art?
the very beginning,
Yeah.
the very beginning was well, the very beginning, to go back deep into the narrative, I guess I remember. So I was born into, my dad is an Episcopal minister, and so I spent a lot of time around church as a kid. And we happened to be in a church in New York City that had a very a well renowned choir, and I spent a lot of time, I remember, just listening to the choir as a kid, and really being mesmerized by the natural reverb that you get in a big space like that. Voices singing in harmony together, especially singing very kind of open vowel sounds in places like that. It's got a very kind of, I think a lot of people can relate to the feeling that I'm thinking of when I think of that music. But it's a very kind of enchanting and awesome, in the truest sense of the word, kind of sensation to listen to that kind of music. And so I think as a kid, I was really taken by that. My parents described me being taken by that. And then when I was 6, my family moved out of the city and into the suburbs, and I got put in the semi kind of professional choir of the church that in the town where my parents moved to, and I ended up performing regularly with the church there. We do multiple rehearsals in a week, and sing the sing during the services every Sunday. And then I was kind of, I think, one of the favorites of the choir master there. And so I would also get selected to be in bigger ensembles, and we would do operas and symphonies, Mahler symphonies, where there were like vocal parts and things that they needed young children to sing vocals on. So I would sing as parts of choirs for that kind of stuff. And that was probably my first experience really kind of contributing to a piece. Yeah.
So, I mean, that takes us right into where I would love to go when we're talking about connectivity and art or music. In this case, God and music and spirituality. Is music like a connection to the holy or the divine for you?
Yeah. I would say I don't think of myself as a religious person. I don't have a faith that I could like describe, at least not cogently. I would say that the closest I come to feeling in touch with any kind of spirit or deity or belief in something bigger and greater than myself is probably while playing music or listening to music. Yeah, there is it definitely occupies that kind of spiritual space in my mind and in my heart. It's a the happiest, most memorable, most significant, life-changing kind of moments that I've ever had in my life usually revolve around or usually include music, at least as a part of it. I remember listening to classical works. I remember listening to some choral pieces when I was pretty young, 14, 15 probably, and just being moved to tears by melody and harmony. And that is always, that's always felt, I guess if I think if there's any kind of belief I have in a deity, it is something very mysterious. And so I'm also always intrigued by the mystery of how sounds placed well together in a certain context can produce such strong emotional and spiritual kind of feeling. So that's always been an amazing thing. That notion alone can make me feel kind of emotional. Just the idea that, wow, something so basic and simple as the arrangement of notes in a pattern can elicit such an emotional response from people. That itself is just an amazing revelation to me.
And how do you view your involvement in the process of, in a way, guiding, augmenting, altering people's moods, behaviors, thoughts, feelings, like through the art you make? Like, do you feel like when you get off stage and your people are happy after you performed, or like they're expressing whatever their emotional experience is, how do you feel about that? Like, is that something that you appreciate, don't consider, don't think about, do think about?
Yeah, I really like that question because it has a lot to do with something with stuff I've been thinking about lately, which is but to answer it directly, yeah, I do like that feeling. There's something both incredibly gratifying about that feeling, to know that you can have made someone's night. I went on a tour through the Midwest recently, and I played some music at a bar in the Midwest where someone who I knew through another person had come to that show, and they were not expecting it, but they had a very emotional kind of experience when I was playing this one song, and they told me about it afterwards, and they kept on remarking how they were really thrown by it. It had made them kind of tear up, and but it felt like they were going through some difficult stuff in their life at that point, and it felt very gratifying to be able to maybe help in some kind of emotional, progress through that tough time through music that I made. So that's very gratifying. At the same time, I find it sometimes emotionally difficult to deal with praise in those kinds of situations. And part of the reason that might be is because I always am stuck still on this mystery as to how the arrangement of these notes and things actually produce these responses in people. You like to think that when you're crafting a song or thinking about harmony or thinking about dynamics or thinking about, song structure or any of these things, that you have some kind of intuitive sense that, all right, we're going to follow up the end of this verse with a kind of, we're going to slow down, we're going to do a retard here, and we're going to then go into this other section, but we're going to drop the volume really suddenly and then build it back up. And, you like to think that you can kind of almost craft this emotional, this emotional symphony. And like, I think almost like a culinary thing too, like making a 5-course meal for someone with all these different parts. But I'm not sure that there is actually that much control people have over it. Or I don't know. I often have no idea what people will connect to, things that I wasn't at all expecting them to connect with, and things that I really spent a lot of time trying to craft. People will just fly right by over people's heads sometimes, it seems. So it also feels in a way like I can't take too much credit for what people enjoyed about a performance. There's a weird way in which I'm almost a bystander as well, like, or I'm an audience member kind of. Yeah.
That brings up the next part of this question when it comes to connectivity. When you're presenting your art to other people, how much does it matter if they like what you do?
Yeah, to me, it matters. It
Give me the
matters.
honest answer. Don't hit me with don't give me the honest answer on this, my friend.
Yeah, it matters to me. I mean, I'm gonna give you the honest answer. To me, I don't know. It's not what motivates me to make work. I feel like I've learned the lesson many times in my life that if you're trying to be creative, worrying or too much about what other people are going to think of what it is you're creating is the quickest way to lose that creative spark. So there is a way in which you have to kind of let go of those. At least for me, I know that worrying, thinking about other people's impressions of me and the way that I want to comport to what other people, I presume, want or would like to hear me say, or how they view me as a person, that turns off creativity pretty quickly. At the same time, I do feel this kind of the pull of that mission of kind of like, if I'm going to make art, I want people to hear it. I want people to appreciate it. I want people to resonate with it. In a way that what I was saying about that person in the Midwest who really liked, who really got something out of my song. That's kind of what I'm aiming for, something that is that affects people. And so yeah, I'm trying to remember how you worded the question exactly to see if I actually answered it, but I don't know.
You did. Are there things that you would like to either convey, or things that you would you see yourself being able to do in the future in terms of connecting with audiences, whether it's topics or themes or locations or things you haven't done yet that you're seeking, like whether it's touring more, whether, whatever it might be?
Yeah. Yes, to all of the above. I'm always interested in whatever the future of music and the consumption of art is going to look like, because that does matter to me. And I want to try different things. You always run up against the limits of what you kind of like and what you enjoy doing. And then there's also the kind of ethical concerns that I think sometimes pop into play, where, you know, you don't want to make certain kinds of art because it just doesn't feel right, or you don't want to be inauthentic making certain kinds of art because it doesn't.
Can you expound on that? Like for you, where's your line, but like, why is quote unquote authenticity important in a field where music is considered entertainment?
Yeah, that's a great question.
But for
because
you,
I think,
yeah,
for me personally, yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to the thing we were talking about before with, you know, a kind of spiritual aspect to music. If I think of music as a kind of conduit to some kind of, you know, spiritual experience I'm seeking or something like that, there's a way in which that needs to feel authentically me. I've definitely had the experience of listening to music I just don't like, you know, and it's kind of like it's not even just uninteresting, sometimes it's like a turn off. So I think there's a, and that's you know, that's just for me, but it's a kind of a reminder of, yeah, that doesn't speak to me, or that doesn't resonate with what I love about music. And to so there's kind of that, yeah, that seeking of that spiritual aspect that I think feels it needs to be authentically me in order to attain or have some hope of attaining. And so yeah, so whereas if you look at art purely as entertainment and look at music purely as entertainment, it seems almost like there should be no restriction. You know, if it's entertaining to others, then it should be made. You should do it. But yeah, but if I'm not enjoying it, I mean, that's another aspect of it, is that it doesn't feel to me, I can produce songs sometimes pretty easily in my own head. I often dream a song or a melody or something and wake up and try to figure it out. But taking that idea, figuring it out after the dream and putting it down into chords and notes on a piano or on a guitar, and then filling it out, recording it, turning it into something that's like consumable and transferable across the internet, and getting people to listen to it, promoting it, marketing it, that is all tough work. And that's really, you know, annoying, time consuming, tough work sometimes. And so what's going to make you want to put in all that work? Is it, if it's something that I don't know, it doesn't give me that kind of spiritual jolt, I don't know that I'm very interested in spending the time doing it. If it would feel differently perhaps if I had a whole team of songwriters or people around me, you know, if you had a whole team kind of motivating you, encouraging you, get that next single out, Grant, you know, come on, let's do this, we'll all pack in a room together and do this thing, you know, then maybe I could make some compromises on the kind of like soul enriching authenticity that I'm looking for. But yeah, normally it's the thing that's going to motivate me enough to actually put in the time necessary to make a song and put it out into the world. It has to feel like something that I actually like.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. And in talking to different people, where that line falls, or like where different people's alignments are. So that I have homies that they are not struggling to write songs about being in the club, spending money on expensive things. Like they like that. Like it's
Right.
totally real for them. My other friends that might write songs about being in love, and it's very like quiet and introspective. They're like that. My friends that do political music, I can't stand when a person has no real thing about it, but it gets like popular to do political songs. So they try one, and it's like, that's not what you do. I can't stand when the rapper who really has had a wife for like 12 years is now trying to do the like, I'm in a club with shorties. No, you're not. You don't know how to write that song. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm more in your boat of there are some entertainers that are really good at displaying imaginary lives. But usually what I like from art and music is learning about the person that's made the art, or it reflecting the world that person comes from, or the imagination that person comes from. Not necessarily a trope I've already seen 30 times, you know?
Right. Yeah. It makes me, I mean, it makes me at the same time question, I think, well, you know, yeah, I'm not one who goes to the club. Like I haven't been to a proper club since I was like
A
since,
proper.
yeah, since I was probably like, I don't know, 21. Like it's not something I really do. And yet I do come across music, like art, people who are into that kind of thing who kind of inspire me in some way, where it makes me be like, wow, I want to try a little bit of that. I want to try some piece of like what would it be like to just go out like mindless on a Saturday night and just and stay at a rave till like 7 a.m. Like what would that be like? And could I get into that headspace? So there is kind of a yeah, it feels inauthentic to me too, to like when people are the voyeur, but they don't do that kind of stuff at all. Someone who suddenly has never been political in their life and then tries to write a political song. But maybe there's something valuable about saying, you know what, I've never written a love song. Let me explore some love songs. Let me talk to people who really do write a lot of love songs. Let me see what they like about that. Or let me talk to people who have had this kind of experience in life, and this goes into their artwork. Like what could I do to try to get more in that mindset and try something a little bit different? I don't know. Yeah.
No, I agree with you on that. As an artist, we should be able to explore. I think the two things that when it overlaps with, there's a trend that I am consciously, like purposely chasing, and
Right.
I'm not good at it. Like
Yeah.
that's when I end up hearing periods. It's like when David Bowie had put out a number of albums I like, and then towards I guess the end of the 70s, it turns like soul influence or something happens where I'm like, wait, what's happening on this album? Homie doesn't do this well at all. Like, go find yourself like a black artist who does it. You don't have to make David Bowie do it. Your label will be fine. And then he went back to his other stuff, and it was like, yeah, homie, like that was good. And so it's not David Bowie's fault. Like as an
Right.
artist, it's like explore. I just
Right.
know for me, when I have people tell me do stuff and I'm sitting there like, I don't really do it, I don't like it, and you're only telling me to do because it's popular, it usually doesn't lead to be my best work.
Right. Yeah, the chasing a trend thing is really interesting because I think about that a lot because David Bowie, the Rolling Stones, there's a lot of bands that over those years they were trying to stay with the curve, right? And they're trying to stay with the trends. And it's arguable, I think, whether David Bowie would have had as lasting an impact as he did if he didn't go in that direction.
Right.
But then you have people like Bob Dylan who did a similar kind of thing, but they actually went against the grain in a lot of ways. You had, he was known as the kind of, what is it? The protest, writing the protest songs and being like a folk singer who wrote the really kind of meaningful, somewhat highbrow kind of intersection with folk music in the 60s in like Greenwich Village, and people like Joan Baez and Pete Seeger and people who were doing these other kind of similar things. And he was known for that, and he was known for doing that very well. And then he was like, I want to play an electric guitar and I want to be kind of more of a rock band thing. And people hated it. Like his fans were just like, so mad, and people, the people, who totally gave up on this guy. They thought he was a joke, like he sold out. But he just kept on making music and kept going in that direction. And he picked up new fans probably from doing that he wouldn't have otherwise picked up. And then he circled back around and did stuff that, probably was more in the folk kind of idiom again. And it was, so maybe, change is good, but I'm with you that for myself personally, it feels inauthentic if I'm trying to chase a certain trend. And I also question how efficacious it actually is. I mean, you see it with you see it in so many. I feel like you even see it in the news media. You see it in the way that
you see it on everything.
media,
Like
yeah.
MySpace worked until someone else bought it and tried to change it. Like
what did you say?
MySpace was just fine
MySpace? Yeah,
until someone was like,
right.
we could change this. Or I could name you 80,000 rappers like The Last Emperor, Number, where they were dope. And it's like, oh, here's a bigger opportunity, but let's not do what actually got you here. And you could see that it didn't gel.
Yeah.
And so I find it very rarely to be efficient, to be inauthentic. Again, I think there are people that are good at being chameleons. I think there are artists who
Right.
are inherently able to juggle many different plates. I might, I can't say anything. I've worked with acoustic guitarists where there are no drums. People trying to tell me it's not rap. I've done straight boom bap, like people being like, "Wow, you're trying to live in the '80s," when it was like 2012. I love the fact that you and I do stuff that isn't what we normally do. So it's not to say don't try things as artists, but to maybe bring up that question of, is it the intention? Is it the following your path, letting other people guide you? Which brings me to this last question. How do you remain vigilant or persistent or have the ability to remain, I would say, like, to have resilience and standing fortified for how you view your art, your music, your beliefs, when you're doing something for 10, 15, 20 years? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, when you said beliefs, that just threw it out. That threw the question way out there.
All right. So take belief out of it. Take belief out of it.
Take beliefs out of it. I mean,
or how do you still believe in yourself? Like, as an artist, if
yeah.
you've been making stuff for 30 or 20 years, you're younger than me. So for 20 years, how do you still believe in it?
I mean, it's hard. Sometimes I don't. That's the honest answer. It's like sometimes I don't believe in it. Sometimes it's sometimes it really, you realize, again, going back to, like, you want you want your art to connect with people. I think just like you want your beliefs to connect with people, right? Beliefs don't exist in a vacuum. Like these I think belief systems are a thing that bond people, right? And so there's you want to find your tribe. You want to find your people who kind of appreciate what it is you're doing and what wavelength you're on. And if you don't feel like you're finding those people, or if you feel like you're finding those people kind of for the wrong reasons, or it's really difficult you can start to question whether you're actually doing anything worthwhile at all, or saying anything meaningful at all. So I think it's difficult. I think that it probably comes back to something that's a nice way to close out this talk, which is to something you said earlier about if it resonates with you. I mean, like I go through bouts where I feel like I haven't come up with any good ideas for songs or any original ideas for things, and then all of a sudden I do. All of a sudden something kind of piques my interest, and I think, where did that come from? Or like that really resonates with me. That's something that resonates me in a way that I wasn't expecting, because I was expected I'd already said this kind of thing this way so many times, and it wouldn't actually resonate with me anymore. And so, kind of surprise yourself to get into that play state with yourself and with your creativity. And then that engenders some kind of ambition, I guess, a feeling of wanting to actually bring it outside yourself and share it with other people. And I guess I come back to that. I come back to my ability to keep on doing that. It feels like something that keeps me resilient. but it is also, I guess, I don't know if this is completely related to your question, but I'll just throw it in there just for morale, which is that also I'm reminded lately just how it's also reaching out to other people. I think that myself and a lot of artists can get very insular and too introspective, I don't want to say too introspective, but maybe too introspective and too focused on kind of what you're doing and comparing it to the last thing you did and comparing it to, this whole like inner world that you can build for themselves and inner judgment. And sometimes it's good to just get it out to someone else, like go talk to a musician you've never talked to before, play music with someone who you never thought you played music with before, like I've done with you when we first started playing music together, doing try something different, try to get yourself outside your comfort zone. And that shows me, at least it shows me myself in a different way. It shows me a resilience that maybe I didn't think I had. So, I realized, oh, I actually can bring something to the table here, when I'm collaborating with someone else, or I can, or this person looks at these things in a totally different way, and I find that inspiring. So that also feels relevant.
Here, bring it. Show me which one. 2 minutes. I'm coming out. We're just finished. All right, last two questions. Yes or no only. You inherently create, and no matter what, always create. Yes or no?
Say it again.
You inherently create and just always create. Yes or no?
No.
And you have gotten to know yourself better through creating and making music.
Yes.
There we go. All right. How can people find you? And we're out.
Grant Swift. GrantSwift.com is my site where I have all my original stuff. And you can also find a link through that site too, where I do bookings for private events. I play covers music as well, for folks doing all kinds of different events. So, but yeah, GrantSwift.com. Find me Grant Swift Music on the socials, or search for Grant Swift on Spotify, streaming, anywhere. Yeah.
All right. So awesome. You have been speaking with your host, Chris Carr. We've been talking about the Create model as presented from Creative Muse. And it's great to have you, Grant. One of these times, we're going to bring you back on to talk a bit more meta, philosophical, larger narrative ideas, and we can get into some fun topics. But for now, thank you very much and see you soon.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, peace.